Hello, everyone. My name is Rechov Yerushalayim, and I'm honored to be speaking. This is my first time speaking to an audience in Tzfat. So, thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for referencing and everything. First of all, I'm an architectural designer. I specialize in designing Mikvaot and sacred spaces. And I started the inspiration for this in Tzfat, where I started learning more and got so inspired from everything that I've been learning and connecting to and finding ancient mikvahs around Tzfat. As we all know, there are many. And I came here to speak about a few of the things that I do as well. So I'm an architectural designer. I also create laser-cut artwork based on Kabbalistic designs, mainly from the sefirot, Tanya, Hasidus, and so on. So there's a few concepts that I would like to show you today. So the first thing that I'm going to be speaking about is actually this piece right here. This is the Rechortded, the 231 gates. The reason why I specifically chose to display this today is because it was actually yesterday's Tanya. It describes in the beginning of Shar Yechad the Rechortded Sharim Holet Hazor, the 231 gates going and coming forth. And this is basically, it's in its essence, the entire essence of creation. Hashem created the world through 10 utterances. And what are utterances? Utterances are speech. Speech is the connection of letters. This, the Rechortded Sharim, the 231 gates, are all of the letters of the Aleph base arrayed in a circle, and this entire geometry is made up of the connections of letters. So Aleph to Beis, Aleph to Gimel, Aleph to Dalet, Aleph to Hey, and so on, and it continues in a cycle and exists in the 231 gates. The reason why it's called 231 gates is because there are 231 lines in the entire geometry.
Connections between letters.
The connections between letters.
Is that?
Yes, this is another version of it that I'll be speaking about as well. So around here, I added a quote from the Sacred Sirah from Ari Kaplan's version of the commentary, and I'll read it to you now. 22 foundation letters. He placed them in a circle like a wall of 231 gates. The circle oscillates back and forth, Aleph to Beis, Beis to Aleph. It continues in the cycle. The circle oscillates back and forth. He permuted them, weighed them, and transformed them. Now, what does that mean with permuting letters? Can anybody think of an example of what a permutation is? How we could actually delve into secrets of Torah or connections or things based on a permutation of letters?
Gematria.
So gematria, but that's the weighing. He permuted them, weighed them, and transformed them. There's 3 categories. So gematria would be weighing the letters. You would take the numerical value and weigh them and connect them. Permuting, the permutations of letters would be like if you take the word Yisrael and you move the letters around to make Yashar Kel or Yesh Rala. There are 231.
Or so when the name Udkoff up.
Yes, the different permutations of Udkoff as well have a specific hashpah, a specific influence on each of the months. That's another thing that I have that I'll speak about in a little bit. So we permuted them, permutations, weighed them, like we spoke about the gematria, and transformed them, transforming the letters. We know that there's Bible codes that we could go into and delve into different secrets and figure out things and codes through different ways of looking at the letters. But what does the transforming them mean? It means, has anybody heard about the Akbash system?
Yeah.
Here. Oh, beautiful. So the Akbash system. So what is it? It's the first and the last letter that we could transform them. We could transform the Tav to Aleph and Aleph to Tav. Beis to Shin and Shin to Beis. There are 11 horizontal lines in the Sharim, the 231 gates. Each one of the 11 horizontal lines is actually a cipher for the Akbash system. So we could go through Aleph to Tav, Beis to Shin, Gimel to Resh, Da, Has, Va, Has, Da, Has, and Kol. So each one is actually one of the horizontal lines. You could use this to figure out the transformations of letters. So, yes, the Aldam is here too. That's another transposition. So Aleph to Lamed is everything across from each other. Aleph to Lamed, Lamed to Aleph, Beis, Mem, Mem to Beis. There's also a Chaspata, or you could go into Av, God. And there's many, many other transpositions and transformations of the letters that we could go into to decipher codes throughout the Torah. And one very interesting thing that it describes in the Sefer Yetzirah about the Achash and the Albam is that each of the 11 horizontal lines, or each of the 11 across lines, correspond to the sefirot. There's 11 and there's 10 sefirot, but they correspond to the sefirot, including Keter and Da'at. So if you include both of them, then it's 11. So At would be Keter. The next one would be Chachma, Bina, Da'at, and then At, Chesed. So the 11 horizontal lines is the Atbash. We're going through the Atbash system. That's why we're going across from each other. So each of the lines across are the actual. So this is Keter, Aleph to top. It's Keter.
There's nothing at the top. There's no
line.
The first two.
So it's an implied.
Across.
Yeah. So it's an implied line.
No, it's not like 12 o'clock is at the top. It's like 12 o'clock is we're going to be
Well, there's no 12 o'clock because it's 22 letters versus.
No, but I'm saying
12 to 24.
the top two letters are side by side and not.
Yes.
There's no.
Exactly. No letter. Exactly. But if you would do an apex, it would be the Aleph because that would be the Aleph to Lamed for the Alam cipher. But if you have it as exactly Aleph and Tuf, the end is wedged in the beginning and the beginning is wedged in the end. This is a famous concept in Kabbalah that everything is a cycle, it's a galgal. And that's what it describes in the Tanya as the Reish Lamed Aleph Sharim is a galgal, it's a cycle, it's a wheel, a continuation. So if you take Aleph and Tuf, Beis and Shin, Gad, Da, Ha, Tzfat, and so on, the central one, you see the central line across corresponds to, if you go continue in the sefirot, corresponds to Gevurah, okay? The central line is Gevurah, and Pei and Vav is, does anybody know Gematria? So what's the Gematria of Pei and Vav? 86. Pei is 80, Vav is 6. If you need a little help, I got a Gematria cipher here. So, so Pei and Vav is 86, Gematria of 86. What else is the Gematria of 86? Shem Elohim. Elohim and Hateva, according to nature. So Elohim is one of Hashem's names that correspond to a concealment. It's not out in the open, but it's a little bit concealed. So that's why it's Gevurah, putting up the boundaries and bringing that feminine aspect. Feminine names also Elohim. So bringing that feminine aspect, that's Gevurah in the center. And then we mentioned the Albam cipher as well. So Aleph to Lamed is that other central column. And that's Kel, which is Chesed, which is like a mashpia of all of the light. So you have the revealed light, Kel, then you have the Pei Vav, which is concealed through the Gematria, through weighing the letters, and that's the Gevurah. Putting up those boundaries, but still having that line straight from Hashem, Elohim. And we continue. Zayin Ayin is the Gematria of 77. This is corresponding to the Sefira of Tiferet, beauty, harmony, truth, both sevens on equal aspects. And 77 is also the Gematria numeric value of Mazal. And if you keep on going down and connecting them to the Sefirot, you continue to the bottom. I could go on to each one, but we'll continue to the bottom. And then you have Mem and Yud, Yam, Mei, Mayim. That corresponds to Yesod. Yesod is the channel in which everything flows through. All of the light of the Sefirot flows through Yesod. It's that water. It's bringing down the water into the vessel, which is Malchut. Malchut corresponds to all of the sefirot, the reflection of the sefirot into the physical, tangible universe, and that is Kol, all. So you have Yesod as Yam, May, Mayim, bringing down the light of the sefirot into Kol, all, and then together they're Kelim. Together, you're able to actually have the pure Kelim, and we just got through Shavuot, where we received the Torah, and we went through each of the sefirot and really perfected each one of these attributes within ourselves, whether we know it or not, because if we take Halavai, but Hashem, we will and we should, but if we had taken that to heart and gone through all the sefirot, then that's an incredible transformation within oneself. It's like a mikvah for our own selves, our own souls. And either it's in the that's why I said whether you pay attention to it or not, because it's in the atmosphere of the air as well. So no matter what, it's the actual essence of each day. Hashem is giving you that essence, that light, that spark, whether you know it or not, or connected to it or not. So may we be all kalim to be able to access this and draw it down. So you have the kalim at the bottom, and then we become that true vessel. And then on Shavuot, we rose up from Malchus to the Malchus, and we rose up to accept the Keter. And what's at the top? Bereshit. Bereshit. All of it. In the beginning, we're able to rise up to the top. The end is wedged in the beginning. And then that is exactly, there's Melech and Yimloch. There's a lot of other depth to that as well. Hashem Melech, Hashem Melech, Hashem Yimloch. It's all together. It's all one. So through studying the Rula Sharim, the Rishon Al Sharim, the 231 gates, you could really access deep inspiration. And even just meditating on it, not even knowing, you could just, I have a friend who bought one of my first versions of this, and she says every time she sees it, it's a portal. It's like it just draws her in. And it's true. It's something that I actually connected to it for the first time when I decided, I got the Sefer Yetzirah, and it was years ago when I thought I had acquired the Sefer Yetzirah. And I've opened, every time I would try to open it and read it, I would only get through a paragraph or so. And that's all I could figure out. That's all I could connect to. Like, it's such a high and holy word that you can't possibly bring it all in unless you're completely ready for it to be that keli. So every time I would open it and get through a paragraph or so, that's it. And then I decided that I happened to be going to Hebron for a weekend. And I decided I was going to read the entire Sefer Yetzirah in Avraham Avinu's kever. And it happened to be Shabbat Mavarchim of the month of Tammuz 4 years ago. And I was in the kever the entire day. I finished davening, I did all the tehillim that I was supposed to do, and then I read the entire Sefer Yetzirah. And when I came to that point where it talks about the Rechov Yerushalayim, it describes it as a meditation, where you take the letters, you dig them, you imagine yourself as if you're standing on like thick black mud, and you dig the letters out of the earth around you, the pure soil around you. You bring the letters up like walls, like it said, like a wall with 231 gates. You bring the letters up like walls, and you deck them like a ceiling above your head. And then you're in this space of purity, transformation, clarity, and creation. And when I read about this, I was in that space already. I was in the kever of Avraham Avinu, and they say that Sefer Yetzirah was either written by Avraham Avinu or Adam Arishon. So I was in that space, and I looked around and I saw the letters around me like walls with 231 gates. And then I saw it as if there was a dome of lines of light above my head, and I was transformed. It was this inspiration that just connects to me so deeply. And I had no idea why that specific concept connected to me, but since then I needed to create it. Like this was a need. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but this needs to be brought into actuality. This needs to, be something physical, not just a little two-dimensional version of drawing on a paper. And I had a dream to have a laser cutter since I graduated college. And I knew that that would be the best way to do it, to create this through a laser cutter, but I did not exactly have one at that point. So a little while later, actually, right after Shabbos, I made a three-dimensional version on the computer, like an actual 3D model of it as a dome with 231 lines. But that wasn't enough. I needed physical. So on Tisha B'Av, I was living in Crown Heights at the time, and on Tisha B'Av, I usually hosted some sort of like a painting connecting like to the atmosphere and time of the day. So I hosted a painting event, and we all sat on the floor and just like really connected. And I took a piece of marble and I painted the third base of Mikvaot according to the Ramchal on this marble, as if it was coming down. After this whole experience, I had many connections in Yerushalayim, and I had this vision of the third base of Mikvaot coming down, that it's hovering right above where the hotel is. And that's actually true. It is actually hovering there. It's just right above. So I had this, what? Or below. Connecting to below. So that actually
levels down, so I can make an earthquake, and it's not coming from above, that everything's gonna get decimated, and it's gonna be.
It'll happen immediately. So I had this vision of the Beis Hamikdash coming down through rain, and this rain wasn't just real rain, regular rain. It was rain of tears throughout the generations, and everybody was crying and waiting and almost yearning for the Beis Hamikdash to come down. That's the essence that it's coming down in. And so I painted this, the Beis Hamikdash according to the Ramchal. And then after I painted it, I took string and I wove the 231 gates over this painting. It took me, the entire thing took me 17 hours. I did not break my fast until I finished it. And that was the first version of the ReLashArim that I actually ever created. And then moved on to this version after I was able to acquire a laser cutter and have that there, start doing more things like this. So there's many more secrets hidden within this. I could go on and on for days of just, concepts of this. But I'm going to show this this one for a moment. There we go. So this is a version of the ReLashArim that I made. Again, it wasn't enough for me to just do it because, oh, that's not two-dimensional, it has layers. But I needed something more physical, more tangible, more three-dimensional. So I created this version. And I actually learned, so this basically is 231 gates multiplied by 2. So 231, right, doubled would actually be 462. 231 doubled would actually be, because since there are 231 lines, that's Aleph to Beis, Aleph to Gimel, Aleph to Dalet, and so on, but you have to double it in order for it to be Aleph to Beis, Beis to Aleph. So it's Halef Chazor, right? So here I have 462 lines showing the doubling of that, which also hints to the Lamed Bet Netivot, the 32 pathways of Chachma. That's actually how the sefirot starts. It starts speaking about the 32 Netivot. The 32 Netivot are the 10 sefirot plus the 22 letters. If you realize there's actually 22 connections in between the sefirot, and each one is corresponding to a letter. And the gematria of Nativ, the reason why this hints to the 32 Netivot, the Lamed Beis Lev Netivot, is because the gematria of Nativ, path, journey, it's actually not the normal way to say a path. It's like derech is a way, that's where you go. But Nativ is technically an off-ramp. It's your own personal journey. It's your own way of connecting the sefirot and your letters within your life. So the word nativ is the gematria of 462, which is the 231 going and coming forth. And there are 462 root two-letter words in the Aleph base. So Aleph to Beit, Av, Ba, Ag, Ga. Every single two, there are 462.
Native, she said Native Express.
Nativ Express, exactly. Yes. Innocent Express, maybe that's the reason why. I don't know if they had all the kabanos of the Nativ, but that is. But exactly, it is. But Nativ is the upfront. It's the personal journey. It's that personal derech, and that's why I have the sefirot, and then I have the letters around it 6 times. So you have 6 directions: the 4 northwest, east, north, south, east, west, and then you have up and down. So each of the letters, all 4-dimensionally, 3-dimensionally, but everything all together in one with the sefirot in the center. So this piece, again, is 462 lines, and they're lines of light. One of the inspirations I had for this was actually based on the Luchot. There's a miracle in the Luchot, in the 10 Commandments, the 2 tablets, that the entire, like every one of the commandments was engraved in the stone, right? It was engraved completely all the way through, but the miracle was that no matter which way you look at it, even though it was engraved all the way through, you didn't see anything backwards on the other side. Everything, you could read it from right to left, like normally. So this actually is something that I took from that, where no matter which way you look at it, you could read the letters in the correct way. So, question. And then on the bottom of here, see there's steps coming up here. Right. Wow. So this is based on steps, and each one of the steps is one of the worlds. So, well, many things, but the first section is the worlds. It starts with the bottom world of Asiya, our physical realm, the physical earth that we're in. Yetzirah, the next world up, the world of formation. Bria, the world of creation. Bara, Hashem Bared Olam, the world of creation. Atzilut, the world of emanation. And then Adam Kadmon, the primordial man, beyond, that's like the essence of Keter, is the Adam Kadmon level. So this actually shows all of the connections of each of these worlds, each of the letters of Yud Kei Vav Kei, Hashem's name, with Adam Kadmon being the crown of the Yud, that Keter, that crown. And then it goes into the souls as well. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, and Yechidah. The physical soul, the emotional soul, intellectual soul, and the spiritual soul, and the transcendental soul, the Yechidah. And then it also goes into the elements, Eish, Ruach, Mayim, Afar, earth, wind, water, fire. And there's the top one is Hiyuli, is the potential. So this is actually resting. I have the Relash Arim on top of all of these levels of souls, all these levels of worlds. And after I made this, actually recently, I think about last week, I learned that the Relash Arim actually originates in a world above Adam Kadmon. So it actually brings everything together, that it really is manifest above the world. It's before creation, it's before any sort of essence of any spark. It's above in the realm of Hashem. There's many levels of worlds that are very, remotely like hinted to above Adam Kadmon that many people don't know about, and that's where the Relash Arim actually resides. The 231 gates that reside above all of that. So that's this piece. Yes. Would you like me to repeat anything? So I call this the Relash Sha'arim, the Reish Lamed Aleph Sha'arim, which is 231 gates. So Reish is 200, Lamed is 30, Aleph is 1. So 231 gates. And Yeah, this is on top of the steps of the worlds and souls and Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei.
What's the word you use? Potential?
So Hiyuli.
How do
Hiyuli.
you write that?
It's Hey Yud Vav Lamed Yud. Yeah, it's the world of potential. So to share a little bit about one of the mikvahs that I'm working on right now, and my inspiration, as I told you, when I was in the kever of Adam Avinu, when I was in that space, I saw the letters of light as it rolled above my head, right? And besides for having to actually create it physically, I had been thinking at that time of what I'm gonna do. Like I'm designing a mikvah right now. Well, finished designing it, finally creating it, a mikvah in Newfoundland, Canada. And I've been trying to think of what to do with the roof, how to connect and what to do with it. And when I was in that space in my meditation, I had this inspiration that I needed to create the Relah Sha'arim, the 231 gates, as a roof above the mikvah. Islat Hashem, Islat Hashem. So later, after I had told you that I was learning a lot about Mikvaot and delving into a lot of teachings, a lot of learnings, a lot of meditations, and I learned that the Arizal and the Baal Shem Tov have meditation for Mikvaot. And it's the most beautiful meditation. It actually describes it in Rabbi Pinson, Bill Pinson's book, The Secrets of the Mikvah, I believe. And describes each of the parts of the mikvah as a different essence of Hashem's name. So while you're in the water, the four walls around you are Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, Hashem's name, Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei. Below you is Adnos, Adnan, Malchut. And then above your head is Ekyat, Aleph and Hey and Yud and Hey, which is essentially the name for a potential. Yeah, I will be. It's that potential energy. So while you're in the water of the mikvah, which the water as well is the Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei. Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei is a name that corresponds to the emotions. It connects to the person itself. So while you're in the water, you lift your feet up from the ground, right? And you're completely submerged in the water all around you. So you're submerged by that love and light of the Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei name. So you're immersed in that, connecting to your truest and essence of the emotions. And then once you betool, you nullify yourself of whatever you've been holding back, everything sheds off of you. And then you finally put your feet back down on the floor, right? And then lift your head up. So when you put your feet back down on the floor after being immersed in the Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei, that connects you and roots you to everything, brings everything that you've connected to within the water down to the actuality of the world, the adnos, the malchus, the physical reality connecting, but you still haven't even put your head above the water yet. You're still immersed in that hug of Hashem, and then you push yourself through the roof of the water, and that roof of the water is that ekyak, that potential. So you root yourself, and then you emerge through that beautiful potential energy of everything that you can and would like to be. And that in its essence is breaking. It's like a rebirth, it really is. And that's why this is the essence of all creation, the Relah Sha'arim. It's the essence of all of potential. All of the potential is within this, because it's not showing any specific words. Yes, I showed you a few connections and how you could read it, and you could go on and read it for a lot and figure out many, many things. The reason why you can do that is because it has all of that potential energy within it. So for the roof of the mikvah, going through that potential, actualizing the Relah Sha'arim, the 231 gates within yourself, and being able to tap into the Lamed Beis, the Lev, the 32 paths, all together and encompassing, it is a rebirth, it is a transformation, it is a beautiful embarkment on the new you and your new life. So potential life. What? And potential life, exactly. And everything all encased in one. That's why. And then also, once you've already gone through that, you're standing in the mikvah, you're standing in Malchus, and you're completely surrounded by the emotional, and you have your head above the water. So you have all three at once. Once you already break through that boundary of the water, then you're in that space and uniting it all within you, tapping into your pure essence and your purest, holiest, and most beautiful soul. So,
You have a picture of it.
I do on my phone. I could show later. Any questions?
You're one more thing behind you.
Yes. So this is actually my spirit counter, and this every day that you count, you continue and you return it. And I made it specifically manual because you're doing the work, you're turning it, you're going to the next step and the next step and the next step. So actually an interesting story about this is that when I first started cutting my laser cutter, I had access to a laser cutter at the beginning of COVID. And it was Pesach at that time. And I wanted to come up with something, some amazing design. And this was the first design that I actually made from my laser cutter 3 years ago. 4 years ago? I don't remember this time. So this was my actual first design. And I had the outer ring, but I didn't have the inside. I was working on a full system of gears. I still am working on a full system of gears. But this is actually the first time I finished a full version of it. And when did I finish it? Of course, on Malchut Sheba Malchut. I went through the entire sefirot, and then I had the inspiration. So,
Ready for next year.
exactly, it's ready for next year. But I feel like that it has to be that way because Malchut Sheba Malchut is bringing it into actuality. Like, how can you have a spirit? I mean, my spirit counter had to manifest its first ever version on the essence of the like grounding, physical, the Malchut Sheba Malchut, like bringing that essence into the world. So this spirit counter, we go through each of the sefirot, and it connects each one of these crowns is a sefirah. So you have Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, and Malchut. And each one of these it's kind of like 3 crowns on each one, hinting to the Keter Chachma Bina or the Chachma Bina Da'at, and which are the intellectual sefirot above the emotional ones that we count. So each of the days it shows through. So you have the week of Chesed, and then you have Chesed. Each one of these is showing the day of each of the weeks, and then this here, this is the Anamachua prayer. So this all around here is the Anamachua. Anamachua is yeah. Yes. Well, yeah, exactly. You say it after the bracha, and it connects the Anamachua because the Anamachua has 7 sentences, right? 7 sentences, each one corresponding to a sefirah. But each of the 7 sentences only has 6 words. So you have the 7 sentences in each week, and then 6 words. But then after the 6 words shows an acronym. And that acronym corresponds to Malchut, which is a reflection of everything above. So that acronym of each of the Anamachua, Gedulat, Aleph, Beis, and Gimel is the reflection of that into the world. So that, and it's also all of the acronyms together are the 42-letter name of Hashem. And it's a special concept to, when you say Anamachua, every time you say it in the mornings or on Shabbos or whatever time it is, to actually glance at the acronym after you say the entire sentence. So you say the sentence, you glance at the acronyms, and then at the end, you glance at the entirety of all of the acronyms, which is Hashem's 42-letter name of Hashem, the 42-letter name of Hashem.
Which word, evidently is the name of which acronym you know.
The Anamachua?
You know, the 42 name. Is evidently the creator name.
Really?
My picture of our office. he loves Amicor, and we have Amicor all the way through here.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you could go through each of the steps of the year after the count.
Yeah, I'm doing the 40 days of blessing now. And I'm sharing that because I'm trying to verbalize what I've been doing for about 10 years. But I wouldn't do it. I don't know what it's about. And now I'm trying to bring the word up. Do it every 4 days at the different levels, starting with captain bells and off. And each of the letters, the 4 letters, has to do with the world. And it's, playing with this,
Yeah.
as a way of grounding Shavuot with awareness of blessings. Hashem blessing at every second in various ways, and just kind of noticing that within the extra consciousness. I want to ask that someone over me, this is only business now, present times, just noticing.
Tapping into it and bringing down that bracha. And as you go through it in 40 days, every time that you go through a cycle of 40 days, it manifests within your life.
And you have 40 days of blessing, and I call the middle ones 40 days of challenge and severity. And then the 40 days of true love. It's amazing. 20 days.
Wow. It's a full journey. Wow. Hashem, thank you for sharing that. So I don't know how much time I have left for
20 minutes.
Okay.
You have a website with all these, you have all these explanations recorded because I can't process it all at once. I don't understand the only one, but I have to speak for myself. I need to hear this again and again. So
Yeah.
beautiful. Wow, Hashem has gifted you this vision that really very special.
Hashem,
Thank you,
thank you.
Hashem.
Thank you, Hashem. Thank you, Hashem. And that's also to realize, like, the only reason why I'm able to tap into these things is because I realize that it's all from Kadosh Baruch Hu. And that's one thing. I mean, I'm going to go through the sefirot a little bit and talk about Netzach and Hod and how to actually internalize this. That was actually the kind of the title, I believe, of how to internalize the sefirot after the count. So that's part of the journey and part of the recognition of that this is all a disclaimer. This is not, none of this is my work at all. Like, this is Namash who guided me and chose me to be the vessel. Baruch Hashem, and I'm so grateful. So that's the only thing allowing me to be here today. So I'm going to go through the sefirot.
So is this recorded somewhere?
So this, it's recorded on my Facebook Live, and I believe that it's recorded through Zoom. And I do have a website. Yeah. And I do have a website. It's 231gates.com. So you check that out. So yes, now going through the sefirot and how to connect to the sefirot within our own selves and bodies. Quick hafsaka. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, shehakol nihiyeh b'dvaro.
Amen.
And that's also, and that bracha is also another Ketler Alev, 231 dates, that shehakol nihiyeh b'dvaro, it's all within his words. What is speech? Speech is the connections of letters. Connections of letters is how the entire essence of creation and all of us came into being. So, Hashem, L'chaim Almayim.
And that's why Hashem is called Hashem, the name, because we're called by a name. Everything has a name.
Everything has a name, and that was also yesterday's Tanya. Hashem. So, start with the sefirot. In this version of the sefirot, there's many different calculations of where the letters reside in connection to the sefirot. But this one is according to the Arizal that I have. And in this version, I have keter instead of da'at. It says in the sefirot sefirot that it's 10 and not 9, 10 and not 11. So 10 sefirot and not 9 sefirot, and sefirot and not 11 sefirot. So if there's keter, there's no da'at. And if there's da'at, there's no keter. They're interchangeable, as one may say. So starting with the Keter, that's beyond. I always imagine it as a meditation, where it's just this like pure, beautiful cloud of light coming from the top of our head and filling our entire body. So that's what Keter is, it's the crown. Keter is also the gematria of 620, which is the 613 mitzvot, plus the 7 mitzvot derabanan. Also connection to Shavuot. So this Keter, this line, this cloud of light comes through through the top of our head and manifests in the first light of that spark of wisdom, that spark of chachma, wisdom. Technically, it's like that thought before we internalize, before we even think it, just like, oh, that aha moment. So that's the chachma. Then we go to bina, lahavin. It's also the feminine aspect. The masculine is chachma, and bina is feminine, is to lahavin. To take that spark and do something with it. To take that spark and realize what it actually is, and internalize it, bring it into ourselves and that's actually the hashpah, the first step in order to bring it into the emotional aspects. So it's like the bina, and we understand what that spark is, and then we can speak about it, then we can do something about it, then we can actually bring it into being. So we have the bina. Then these 7, those are the top three, the top 3 sefirot, which are the intellectual aspects, attributes of man and God. And then the next 7 are the 7 emotional attributes, which is where we start counting the sefirot with. We start with chesed, gvur, peres, netzach, hod, yisod, malchut. So chesed. What's chesed? We just went through the entire week. We're in Tzfat. Everyone's a Kabbalist here.
Except for me.
It's a
All
rare.
right, I'm the star. I will.
She's the Malta, she's the grounding, bringing it all into actuality. There you go. So, chesed is the right hand, it's connected to the right hand. It's loving kindness, right? That's how it translates as. It's that complete flow, the abundant loving kindness. It's connected to the element of water. It's that flow with no boundaries, but just that flow of kindness that, oh, I'm gonna give you, I'm gonna give you, I'm gonna give you, I'm gonna give you. But then you don't have anything for yourself. You don't have that restraint needed in order to keep it within yourself, to keep healthy boundaries for yourself, your soul, your mind, anything. So you have the first one.
Also connected to
Exactly. So chesed is Abraham Avinu. Each one of these 7 are connected to the Avos. Thank you. Yes, are connected to the Avos. Abraham was giving. He had his tent of 4 sides and invited everybody, but he didn't have that restraint. He needed to beget Yitzchak in order to have some of that, the boundaries that he needed in order to continue. So Abraham, it's just that flow. It's beautiful to have kindness. It's beautiful to keep on flowing, but you need to have that gevura, which is the feminine aspect. The gevura is the left hand, the restraint. It's also fire, which rises up. So I actually use this as a meditation, where you have the right hand and imagine it as if it's flowing water and cupping into your hand and overflowing immensely and just flowing through. And then that rises up into the fire and brings that within you. So it rises up on the left. So it's a cyclical event with the fire and water. It just continues going down and rising up and going down and rising up. And the chesed and gevura together. The gevura is restraint. The gevura is putting boundaries. It's like this, if you have a stream, you can have something that just comes, a stream of water that it has no boundaries. It'll just go everywhere. It'll dissipate. But if you have boundaries, then it's a beautiful stream of water that you could actually, that once it has boundaries, it contains that water in a way. But then there's also an aspect of having too much gevura, too much restraint, closing yourself off to the world, closing yourself off to anything around you and even yourself.
seeing yourself.
Exactly. So you need to have that balance. And where is that balance residing? If you continue in this cycle, that balance is residing in the heart, the center of you, the center of your group, which is Tiferet. Tiferet is beauty, harmony, truth, purity. It's accessing that essential, purest part of your soul, which is manifest within the two opposites. So when you have the two opposites together, that's what actually creates the beauty. That's what actually creates the harmony. So utilizing these things that we've gone through each of the steps of the sefirot. So we know we have chesed of chesed, gevura of chesed, sefiros of chesed in each one. But now that we've already gone through it, to actualize it within ourselves and really tap into our true sefiros and our healthy boundaries, our healthy gevura, and our healthy giving in a way that we encompass it in our souls and our lives ahead. So we have chesed, gevura, tiferet. Chesed is Abraham, gevura is Yitzchak, and tiferet is Yaakov. Yaakov is the one that draws down the nation, that has the 12 tribes that are all holy. And through that, that's where we reside, Yisrael, Yaakov, Yisrael. So, and that's also tiferet is connected to the element of air as well. So it's connecting to that. You have the Tzfat. Exactly. Well, actually, now that you mentioned that, I got Tzfat right here. Yeah. So you can actually pass it on, please. I have a set of 4, but I only brought Tzfat with me today. And so yeah, so you have the tiferet, the air, the tzfat. That's why tzfat, the air, is ruach, which is spirit, which is our essential spirit. And then I mentioned earlier netzach and hod. Netzach is Moshe Rabbeinu, the right foot, moving forward, pushing forward, accomplishing, doing everything in your power to action, to bring anything into life, to do. And that's what netzach is. Netzach is also endurance. It's also, it's eternal as well, nitachon. And so you have that doing, you have that right foot. But what happens? You need to have that left foot in order to continue in that halicha and continuing going. So you have that right foot, you have that pushing forward and that drive to accomplish. And Hashem bestows that upon us. Everybody has their talents. And however we manifest that and whatever we do in this world is connected to netzach, is doing. But then you can't move forward without the hod. What's hod? I've always heard, what? It's thankfulness, exactly. But I've always heard this translation of hod as splendor. But what is splendor? It's like, it's aesthetics. I mean,
that's what it's get done.
Yeah.
And hod is what we're going to do it nicely.
That's really interesting.
Do it with hod.
With splendor. Right, grace. With grace, exactly. But it's also hadaya.
So it's acknowledging what it is, it's that refining our drive and our purpose to fit the situation or to fit the person, having empathy for other people's perspectives, such as refining so that we have this purpose, really, beautiful essence as it manifests. And the aesthetics is very important. It's like if you're an artist, you want to know the audience is doing. What your channel, because with your words, your own priorities. With code, it's your priorities. Slightly change to fit the situation.
Yeah. Interesting. So it's bringing that, beautifying your netzach. Netzach is persevering. It's the masculine energy, right? It's just going. Doesn't matter where we're going, we're going. But then you have that hod, which is that beautifying within what you're doing and having that. And it's also hodaya, gratefulness, thankfulness, that's what you were saying. And that realization that the only reason why we're accomplishing and doing is because HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem, gave us the power and the cloth to do so. Hashem gave us the tools in order to implement anything. And then when you realize that, you truly realize that, you have this overwhelming, beautiful gratitude towards the Creator. And you realize it's also a form of bittul, a form of nullifying of one's ego, where you don't have that ego in order to, if the ego blocks, The ego is the ultimate klipa, is the ultimate shell or husk that's blocking us from our truest selves and our truest connection to Hashem. So when that's eradicated, we're able to realize true where everything comes from and how everything comes from. So that's from Hashem. So the netzach and kol are the right foot and the left foot. Also, this month, the month of Sivan, is connected to the left foot. Every month has a body part that it's connected to. Nisan. Exactly. So we have the right foot, Moshe Rabbeinu, where we're going and we're persevering. We're leaving Egypt on Nisan, and then we finally have the left foot when we're realizing it's all from Recortded, and that's when we're able to receive the Torah. That's when we're able to have that humility, like Aaron. That's code is Aaron poem. I almost said Aaron Avinu, but yeah, it is also. He's the peacemaker. Exactly, the peacemaker. He takes himself.
If Nisan is the right foot, and Sivan is the left foot,
So it's the kidney, the right kidney.
So you don't go just, you have to go through the body.
Yeah, you have to go through, exactly. It's a continuation, it's a cycle, exactly. Yeah. And the right kidney is also, it's what filters things. It's like filtering. So it's like you go through the right foot, and then you filter yourself, and then you have that hope, and then you're able to continue. And also, something else that I brought that I'll show quickly because I'm running out of time. I want to finish with the sefirot. But I have this piece. It's a clock of sorts. It's a clock of sorts. It's a clock that's based on the months, the 12 months, and the letters that each of the months correspond to. And each of the months, the tribes, the attribute of the month, the permutation of Hashem's name, and so on. So debating if I should continue with this. I'll continue with the sefirot and then I'll finish with the sefirot. This is a little bit of a teaser. So I'll continue with the sefirot. And it also says that in the Sefer Yetzirah, that prophecy resides between the sefirot of Netzach and Hod. So Netzach is the perseverance, and the Hod is the realization. So once you have those two together, you have Moshe and Aaron together, then you're able to receive that prophecy. And it's that pushing through that, that accomplishment and doing, that drive, and the humiliation and gratitude. And Yesod is Yosef, exactly. So then they go down to Yesod. Yesod is the sexual organ, or it's also connected to the womb. So Yesod is what is the channel, the funnel that draws down all of the light through it. It all gathers within Yesod. Yesod is foundation, and it's bringing everything into actuality before it's actually the physical Malchus. Yesod is that gathering light, and then Malchut, from Yesod you're able to gather everything, and also Yesod is the creative energy as well. It's creation, right? We create through foundation, exactly, of life, and that's also like the Arim, 231 gates. And then through that transmits all of the light down into Malchus, and Malchus is the feminine energy. It's connected to the moon, which reflects all of the light from the sun and brings it down into the world. And that's really what our topic and joy and in life is to manifest these lights within our life and to actually bring them into actuality in physical space, in the physical lives that we live. You know, everyone says like, oh, how can I tap into the sefirot? I know it's this, that, whatever, but each of the sefirot are actually an essence within us. It's everything we do, everything we think, everything we feel. And Malchus is what brings it down into our awareness and action and doing from this and through it. So as Hashem, it's a grounding, exactly. Malchut, Mother Earth. It's also corresponding to Earth. The final A of Hashem's name, the final step, the world of Asiya, the physical world, nefesh, our physical soul, each of the earth, right? Each of the aspects actually grounding and bringing it into our realm of life. So maybe each be able to tap into the essence and light of the sefirot in, continuing from this whole holy experience. And like what you were saying that you were doing, the counting another 40 days of bracha and another 40 days and it's another 40 days. It's always a cycle. And then the end is mentioned in the beginning, right? That's what I mentioned before. Once you accomplish and be that true Keli, Malchut is to be, in essence, to tap into your true vessel, to purify yourself as a vessel in order to receive the light. And then once we're able to do that, the Malchut jumps up and rises and becomes the Keter, the crown. So then she becomes just like the moon. We celebrate the new moon when it's hidden. The woman, the feminine aspect is actually hidden. But then on the 15th of the month, it becomes the Keter in itself. It's the full moon. It's the Hashpia. It's all of the light bringing down. So that's what we should be able to tap. We will be able to tap into do within our own lives and our own lights and our own talents and everything that Hashem has given us and brought into this world for us and brought us every, like every single one of us has our own journey, our own purpose in life, and to be able to know it with clarity and tap into it and bring it into actual reality, our Malchut, embodying that royalty and sovereignty and bringing Mashiach.
Amazing. I got one question.
Yes.
When you do this meditation on the water and the fire,
Yes.
and you see the water running, so did you put out the fire with the water?
No, it's like the burning bush, and also like the barad, where it had the hail with the eyes of the fire within it. You realize that they're all one in a sense, in the same, because it's all God. It's all.
Okay.
So it's like it's almost as if the water is overflowing and jumping into the hand of fire, and that water is rising in flames. So it's just this.
It's also balancing the heat of the fire.
Exactly. So, and I do a full meditation with it. I was more in the intellectual today, but Hashem, thank you.
You should.
You want to take a vote? Let's take a vote. You can fly all over the world.
It's not Hashem. I definitely. Thank you.
So everyone can take a moment, help stack some chairs at this table.
I didn't do painting. I did a lot. I did drink and I just amazing. What? This is a functioning clock. We use it on Shabbos. This one's not Shabbos though. Where does it even start? We have to. Wait, where's the on? Wait. Where's the on? Okay, this is just. Yeah.
Just stopping the recording.
You want to cancel. So just you want to stop recording to the cloud and you want to cancel. You do want to start.
Keep that recording.
Yes.